All right. It says calculate the area of this parallelogram. There's a few things to note that are like very important. And and that is that they will give you three different measurements for a parallelogram. But the top two that are important are the base and the height because the area of a parallelogram is to multiply the base times the height, right? So the base, of course, is the bottom, or the base is the the grounded line. For example, like if we're looking at like a slanted line, and we're looking at a grounded line, which one? Slanted, grounded. The grounded line is always the base. Now, that does not mean that the base will always be pointed to the bottom direction. Sometimes it could be pointed to the side, right? Um, but which means that if you was to turn it on the ground, it will be grounded. Different. So take this for example. You have multiple lines. You have slanted lines and you have grounded lines. You want to use your grounded lines as if they're the base every single time. So this base, this here is the base, and the base is 4.2 centimeters. Knowing the units is very important. Now, a lot of people get confused about the height. Here's the really good way to determine the height. If you was to create a border around the entire figure, right? The base or the bottom falls here, the top falls here. But where the bottom and the top connect lies a right angle. You can also see the right angle here. If you was to also go from here to here, you would also see the right angle. This is what it looks like, a right angle. So you always find the right angle. At the right angle will tell you your height. So your height is found at the right angle. Height is 4 centimeters. Now we have to multiply 4.2 times 4, or 42 tenths times 4 ones, and 42 times 4, 168 tenths, which means 168. So the answer is 16.8. What are the units? Centimeters squared. Now, here's a quiz. Is the slant necessary? No. The slant does not help you determine the area. The right angle and the base does. Okay? Take that information to solve this one. This is a very fun problem, and it's a very important problem. So it says the ratio of sales tax. So you know what sales tax is. Sales tax is like when you purchase something, it'll say like sometimes it'll say like something costs $50. But then when you pay for it, it'll come up to like 52.75. That extra amount of money that is attached to the original price is the sales tax. Okay. So the sales tax to the amount of a purchase is a fixed number. So basically, the rate of the sales tax is a fixed number, which means that it's the same, right? There's a percentage of sales tax, and every time you purchase something, that percentage is applied to, okay? In New Jersey, the table shows the sales tax for a purchase of a $95 sweater from Supreme. Oh, Supreme sweaters are nice. Determine the rate between the purchase price and the sales tax, then use information to complete table. Now, when you're determining the sales tax, you have to divide the purchase, or you have to figure out the relationship between the purchase and the sales tax. So you have to ask yourself, what is the relationship between purchase and sales tax, right? What is the relationship between the purchase and the sales tax? Basically saying, how do you get from 95 to 14, and how do you get from 14 to 95? The only way to do that is to divide 95 divided by 14 and 34 cents. That will determine the percentage equals percentage rate of sales tax. Let's go. For this problem, you could use a calculator. So let me just go ahead and use it. So 95 divided by 14 and 34 cents, 6.624. Well, 6.6248. When you're doing percentages, when you're doing money, you keep the last two decimals. When you're doing percentage, you could do the last three. So it's saying the percentage is 6.624, but because it's an 8 next to a 4, it rounds up 6.625%, right? So that means if you multiply your sales tax times 6.624%, you get 95. Look, times 14.34. And if you divide by your sales tax, you get the percentage of change. Let me say that again. 6.625% is the percentage of, that's the percentage for sales tax New Jersey, which means that whenever you purchase something, it is going to be divided by 6.625% to determine how much sales tax you paid. If you buy a car, when you divide it by 6.625, the, the money that comes up is the tax, how much it costs. However, when you multiply the percentage by the tax, you get to purchase. So you divide the purchase by the sales tax. Divide the purchase by the sales tax to find percentage rate. Then you multiply percentage rate by the sales tax to determine purchase amount. Let's use that. So right now we're looking for the sales tax. How do we find the sales tax? To find, do you have to, in order to find the sales tax, 49.68 divided by 6.625, and the sales tax is 14.12. Okay, I thought something was off. So, in order to determine the sales tax, you have to divide by 6.625. In order to determine the purchase, you have to multiply by 6.625. So we're finding the sales tax, so you have to divide 49.68, divide that by 6.625, and their sales tax is 7.50 because you only use the last two digits, $7. And this 8 turns that 9 into 1, so $7.50. Right? So you have to divide it by 625. Now, to determine the purchase amount, you have to multiply 226.41 times 6.625. Oh, that means they paid $1,499.96, which pretty much brings all this up to 1,500, right? It rounds up to 1,500. Same thing. You have the sales tax. Dang. What do you think? If the sales tax is $516, that means what you purchased costs a lot of money. So 516.75 times 6.625. Yeah, that means whatever you bought costed $3,423.46. Let's figure that out. So divide the purchase by the sales tax to find the percentage rate. Multiply the percentage rate by the sales tax to determine the purchasing amount, and divide divide purchase amount by percentage rate to determine sales tax amount. Go ahead and pause it, rewind, and divide it if you need to. Oh, okay, you have to do this information on your own, but you have to figure out what's the sales tax and what's the purchasing amount using that same process. Now here, it says, what is the quotient of 67,260 divided by 95? So you want to write that down. The first number goes under the house. Now you got to create a ratio table or organize one. Okay. One group of 95 is 95. Two groups of 95 is 95 times 2, and 95 5 times 2 is 10, 18, 19. You guys see what I'm doing? I'm gonna set a timer. Let's see how long it takes me to write these multi things. So 3 is 95 times 3. Not 8 is 27, 28. 4, 20, 38. You see, I'm taking my time, but I'm still moving at a good pace. This is why you have to know your multiples. 9, 8, 7, 8, 5, 4. You see why I did this on this other space? If you bring to the fourth capacity. All right. Now I wrote my multiples. I'm gonna keep this timer going to see how long it takes me to do this. It's this divided by this, cover up, back up, got enough, no. Back up, got enough, no. Back up, got enough, yes. Give the man a seat. 95 goes into 672. Let's see. 570, that's two. 665, 7, that's too low. So 7 times. 7 times 95 is 665. Hook your line, subtract. 2 can't subtract 7, so it becomes a 6. 5 goes into 12. I think 7 times. 6 minus 6 is 0, and that's 0. Every time you subtract, you pull down your shade and you divide. This is the part where you guys always get mixed up. You don't have to keep pulling down your shade. You pull down the shade once and you divide. 95 goes into 76 0 times. 0 times 95 is 0. 76 minus 0 is 76. Then you pull down your shade again. 95 goes into 760 8 times. 8 times 95 is 760. Boom. The answer is 708. Took me 3 minutes. Okay. That's how long you want to take. You want to take 3 minutes on, you don't want to take too long. The easiest part was this part. You took, but you should be taking 2 minutes. Just calm down, think about it, write your thing, write your multiples correctly. Almost done. Miss Cook took a few students on a trip. Miss Cook took a few students on a trip to Washington, D.C. Oh, you traveled 220 miles in 4 hours. The speed limit was 70 miles per hour. Then, then there was Were there heavy traffic, light traffic, or no traffic at all? Oh, so basically saying like, if the speed limit is 70 miles per hour and she went 221 miles in 4 hours, have to figure out like, was it heavy traffic, light traffic, or no traffic at all? Okay, fine. How far did Miss Cook travel in 1 hour, 3 hours? Okay, so to do this, you have to create a ratio table. What are your quantities? Miles and hours. What do we know? We know she traveled 221 miles in 4 hours. What are we trying to find? How many miles in 1 hour and how many miles in 3 hours? Well, to get from 4 to 1, you divide by 4. So you have to divide 221 divided by 4. 4 goes into 2 0 times. 4 goes into 22 times 5 times. 4 is 20. 4, 4 goes into 21. Um, 5 times 4 is 20. Oh, 4 goes into 10. 55.25 miles per hour. That means, so let's answer this question. If the speed limit is 70 miles per hour and she went 55 miles per hour, then I would say that the traffic was pretty light, right? Yeah, the traffic was pretty light. It wasn't a heavy traffic. It was pretty light. Now let's look at this one. How far did she go in 3 hours? Well, you got to multiply that times 3, of course. Um, 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2, 3, 6, 7. Decimal point stays the same. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 1 is 6. Okay, so in 3 hours, she traveled 165 miles and 70, 165.75 miles. That that traffic was light. Like it wasn't horrible. I would say it was like it wasn't like crazy traffic. You were still driving at a good pace. Like it would, if it was like if she traveled at 30 miles per hour, like I would say yeah, because like that's a lot farther from 70 miles per hour. 55 is about 20 miles per hour less. So it's not too bad. Traffic wasn't too bad. It wasn't the best, right? I want to see who's paying attention. How was the traffic in this problem? And how do you know? Look at this problem. It says write the opposite. This is why sometimes writing down these informations is very important. What is the opposite of each number and label on the number line? Okay. Well, first we know that these are improper fractions, so I would go ahead and change these improper fractions to mixed numbers. That will help. So 10, 4, 4, 8, right? 9, 6, 1, and 3, 6, and 6, 4 is 1 and 2, 4. Also, look at this, like 2 4s, 3 6, 2 4s. That's the same as 1/2, right? But it says right the opposite. So the opposite of 10 4 is negative 10 4 or negative 2 and 1/2. The opposite of 9 6 is negative 9 6 or negative 1 and 1/2. The opposite of negative is a positive, which is 6 4, which is positive 1 and 1/2. Let's plot it. Negative 2 and 1/2. That's going to be between negative 2. It's good to write what it's between, right? Negative 1 and 1/2, between negative 1 and negative 2. Positive 1 and 1/2, between 1 and 2. You guys see that? That will really help you. Now let's look at it. Between negative 2 and negative 3. Between negative 1 and negative 2. And between positive 1 and positive 2. Did I see what I did? First, I wrote the word opposite to tell me that whatever my answer is, I have to find the opposite of it. Then um I converted it, right? Let's see, basically 10 over 4 is basically saying how many times does 10 go into 4? 4 goes into 10 2 times, and that becomes 8, but plus 2 more is 2 out of 4, and so on and so forth. Then I wrote what it is. I wrote the opposite, and then I wrote the opposite as a mixed number. And then I wrote like between what two numbers it's going to be between, so it could help me plot my answer. You guys try this one. Remember, what words stick out to you? Are you going to, do you have an improper, improper fraction? If you do, how can you turn it into a mixed number? And between what two numbers is that answer going to be? And how are you going to put it on the number line? Once you do all of those things, you'll be fine.